Hello, this is Stuart, Hear Me, See Me podcast. Today's our 50th edition, and I thought I'd better get a very special guest for our 50th edition. It's someone who's a backbone of Haircuts for Homeless and behind every great man and all that. Not that I'm a great man, but she's been mentioned a lot on the podcasts previously with people who have attended any of our sessions, and they know the great work that she does. And she's sort of like behind the scenes most of the time. And so today I'd like to introduce my sister, Belinda Hernandez. Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Now, you are my sister, and I've just given you the wrong surname because you are, in fact, Belinda Lorenzo-Hernandez.
I am.
Right? Yes.
Good job Antonio's not here.
Yeah, he'd tell me off. My brother-in-law would tell me off because his full name is Lorenzo Hernandez. So it's a bit odd, this,
Very odd.
Stuff, you know what I mean? But you've been talked about so much in previous episodes and that, and I thought people might like to get to know, you, the person who's not always in front of the camera as much. You're often behind the camera taking all the pictures and everything. But we've actually worked for my whole working life, ever since I had a business and I had a salon for 30 years. And you've worked with me all that time, haven't you? And is it fair to say we've never had an argument?
No, we've never have. I just don't know. When it's a bad idea or something like that, I just don't answer you.
Yeah, I get the silent treatment. They say, I go, Belinda, I've had a great idea. And she goes, And I think, maybe that's not such a good idea after all. So, 30 years in business is a long time. And so even though everyone sort of presumes you're a hairdresser as well, you've got a real knowledge of the industry purely on the fact that you've always worked behind the scenes and you know what makes a salon tick. Have you seen the industry change over the years?
I would say I don't really know how to answer that question, to be honest.
Well, I know that could be a loaded question because obviously a lot's happened over the time. But I think I was meaning more of the fact that what's happened on the high street. Because if you go back to when we was open, 1988, packed.
Yeah. It was a big busy salons. We had to have staff what was on 2 different shifts at one point, and there was always people waiting for an appointment, all of that type of thing. There was a lot of footfall across where we was in both salons, really. The Stamford not so much, but the Corringham was. But it has dwindled off with the online shopping and all of that type of thing. Not necessarily for the hairdressers, the other shops in the high street, they're not getting the footfall how they used to. And with the big supermarkets and big shopping centres, I think it's made a big effect on a lot of things, to be honest.
I mean, we were like a victim in high street in a way. I don't know how to word victim, but it was one of those things that we were like mini salons. Who the landlord doubled the rent. It was already a struggle. I was probably already, I should know better, but I was probably already trying to keep it going just purely because we'd invested 25 years of our life at that point. And you know how much I sort of borrowed money to keep it open and all that. I think it's a worrying time, isn't it? Because along came COVID as well. By then we'd already closed our business.
Yes, 2 years today.
Is it?
Yeah, it come up on my memories 2 years today because I was on holiday.
2 years today, is it?
Today, yes, the 10th of November. Don't want to do a doom and gloom, but it's actually 2 years today. So it seems a long, long time ago now, to be honest.
Wow. And that's 2 years today I've done that sort of straight video.
Yes.
When I was having to be honest, people don't know, I was having an absolute breakdown at that point.
I could understand that.
I was trying to cling to the business. People, if they know us, they know how strongly how tight we are together, and how much I rely on, well, we rely on each other, I suppose. And the fact that you was not in the country at such a delicate time, and to explain what happened was we already knew it was going to have to close because the landlord wouldn't back down.
No.
And then we got this email saying, or a message to say that on Monday morning, he was going to be putting a for sale board out at the front of the building. And at that point, we hadn't had a chance to tell the staff or the customers. So what we ended up doing, I just made a call, phoned you in Tenerife, didn't I? And said, look,
You did.
I think it's not fair for the staff to just walk in and see a for sale sign. I'm going to have to pull them together and tell them that this is the end of the road. And awful day, like, and that it was so emotional pulling them all together. And then I think if you'd have been there, you'd have just stopped me doing it. I'd done this video of turning off the lights for the last time, and having said that, it did help a lot of people, because we got so many messages after, didn't we? Of people in the same
positive ones.
Positive messages, people in the same boat saying, look, we now, very on the surface successful businesses that messaged me privately and said, look, we're living from quarter to quarter. We know what you're going through or what you've been through. So I think it did inadvertently help a lot of people, that embarrassing video.
Embarrassing. You was just doing it from the heart.
I mean, that it was an odd one, wasn't it? Because it was that day the salon closed, and that night was the first viewing on I think it was on the X Factor of the National Lottery advert that featured haircuts for homeless. So it was the ultimate high and the ultimate low. And we got inundated. My phone went off. It went off the hook, because 1 minute everyone's phoning saying, I can't believe you've closed. The next minute, I've just seen you on X Factor, just in the advert. And I had to just close my phone. I had to turn everything off for 24 hours. What was that time like? I mean, it is both, but what was it like for you at that point?
I was heartbroken. I know that it needed to, it made a decision that we were sort of trying to avoid. But when I come back off holiday, I always remember it, because I come to the salon, which I had to do, and it was all closed. And I got there before you. And it was heartbreaking, because, as you say, like 30 years of working together, and it just was stopped overnight. It was bad enough being on holiday, because that day that you phoned me and we said, like, it's got to be today, you've got to close today at the end of the day. Today, I had a dinner party planned for that evening with all our friends out in Tenerife, and it was very difficult to put on a smile. But it's, I think, the word is heartbreaking, because your whole life was revolved around the salon. What I know mine was, and all the family was.
Even going now, all right, let's change tack before we both go. But like you said, our whole family, and I've got to talk about our dear old dad, who, I mean, that was his birthday recently, when he would have been 85, I think. He died when he was 71. He was a massive part of the salon, wasn't he?
All the clients still remember him when I put things up for Father's Day, good old job, all of that type of thing. Like some of the clients that I've still got as friends on Facebook. So he was a character, and he just was so proud of your salon. So
it's very interesting, because he wasn't very proud of me being a hairdresser, because he was an army man, and I come home and said, "Don't be a hairdresser," and he was very, very disappointed.
He said, "What am I going to tell people?"
What am I going to tell my mates? And then he
What's
spent
gonna
3 years
say?
calling me a barber because he thought that was more macho.
Yeah. Yeah, so
But,
in one way, although we loved him dearly, we, you know, I know me personally, I'd love him to still be here with all the different changes in our family lives, you know, that he hasn't been able to experience. But I think in one way, looking back, it was good that he wasn't,
yeah,
because I think he would have really found it harder than us
yeah.
to deal with, I think. So
I think, I mean, the last thing he ever did for me was you know, like when he was dying, actually, because we nearly took on the big building next door in
yeah,
that massive, like it would have been a massive 3-story building, and I was all set to go. We really was right on the wire of it. We was all but signed the lease,
yeah,
and there was just a last minute glitch about some asbestos they found or something. It was a little tiny thing that was just holding it off. And then when he was dying when he had leukemia and he was in hospital, those just couldn't face it. And I think, you know, I just said, look, I'm pulling out. I can't face this all at the same time. And, you know, that was, I look back, I think, thanks, Dad, because that's the last thing. I'd have had that round my neck as well. And I don't think we, you know, it would have even lasted as long as it did, I don't think. But on a positive note, what happened really was that I think it's because if that's 6 years ago today that the salon closed, it must be this weekend that, sorry, 2 years, but it must be this weekend that Haircuts for Homeless is 6 years old, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
I think it might be Sunday.
Yeah, that's what we worked it out.
Yeah. So, on a positive note, that good comes out of bad is that we got to a point where sort of after 3 years, it was you was helping me. At that point, we had the salon, so I was out there doing it all. We had you was doing a lot of this behind the scenes stuff because you was in salon, so you'd be doing it in salon and you know, taking care of the bookkeeping for it and all the admin. But what this sort of led us to do was when the salon closed and finished, that you could come on board and help me full time. And I know, I mean, you can clarify, but I'm sure that as much as Haircuts for Homeless helped me through the end of that business and that part of our life, I know it gave you something new to focus on as well.
Oh, it did. It was my saviour, to be honest, because once the salon closed, I was made redundant, like all the rest of the staff.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's all right. You know my thoughts on that. But it was the first time I had to sign on at the job centre. Never been there before. And it was really funny because the lady who I used to have to go to see once every 2 weeks, she was such a nice lady. And the good first few visits, I couldn't even talk to her. I was so upset about it all that I just couldn't even speak to her. So she used to just sign me off and say, see you in 2 weeks. And like after a couple of months, because you could do that for 6 months. And after a couple of months, like my mum was saying to me, why hasn't she sent you for any jobs? I said, no. I think the lady probably thought it's not even no point because the lady is not in a good place, you know, at the moment. And I hated feeling like that because that wasn't me. So when I got more involved, was able to get more involved with Haircuts for Homeless, it gave me a different direction and a positive one. And with the 30 years in the salon, and even though I was in the office a lot of the time, I used to enjoy chatting to the clients as well as the staff. I used to feel like their mum a lot of the time. But it was nice to speak to different people, different clients. You got to know them over the years. So I've been able to do that again because with the homeless people, I like to talk to them, although I really, really miss being able to shake their hand, because when I first started with you going out to the centres, I always used to introduce myself and ask what their name was, because I think a lot of the time, if they're on the streets, nobody is really interested in what their name is and all of that, and they don't have that sort of contact with another human being or anything. So I used to quite like to shake their hands, ask them what their name is, and introduce myself. Where now with the pandemic, you're unable to do that. So that is one thing that I do miss. But definitely with being able to help more with haircuts for homeless, it's gave me a different direction, and a better one, I think, to be honest.
I mean, I see it as something that it's almost you just you turn that role into the same thing.
Yeah, it is very similar, isn't it?
You know, like you was always the mother hen of the salon. You was
Mm.
always like clients used to come to you with problems.
Oh yeah.
Staff used to, and sometimes staff used to couldn't stand your guts because you tell them what to do. But the next thing they'd be saying, "Oh, Blink, can you help me with this? Can you help me with
Yeah,
this?" You
yeah,
know, it's often not work related. You was always like, you know, there for people.
yeah,
And I think you've taken that role because we've got 67 groups across the UK, and you've you know, we're just about we're getting them all going again. But so many of the groups is like they know that you're the person to go.
yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah, you don't get an answer from Stuart. You have to wait. Yeah, yeah. Contact me first, and then I'll get you to make sure that you answer, or vice versa. But yeah, I think a lot of them as well. There's so many. Yeah, I've got all the WhatsApps on my phone, so my phone is on silent. You tell me off sometimes because I miss calls and all that because I don't hear them. But I think it's nice to have that contact with all the groups, and a lot of them now that I've been able to meet quite a few of them now, the team leaders and the volunteers, that I feel like I've made a lot of new friends as well. So you know, that's I think that's a good thing, and that's what I thrive on. I enjoy being with people, and when I was first didn't have a job anymore, I did feel quite closed in indoors. You know, I wasn't used to being at home so long. So now I do enjoy going out and about and meeting different people and the different centres as well. It's interesting because they're not all the same. So I find it interesting.
I mean, you've been you've been really important in because we work well together. Because I'm a bit like I think we work from different parts of the brain. Because I'm not off and running and you know, I've got all these ideas and I sort of say, yeah, we'll figure out as you go along. But you're like the other side that's like, come on, we need a plan, we need to sit down, we need to list, we need to do this, and I think that's why we work well together, because it's that I don't know, it's a great blend, you know. I know you, and I often like it's a good thing, and I often like get a little WhatsApp message saying, I don't know if you've seen, but so and so's messaged. I think, oh, right, oh yeah, and I go,
Yeah.
and I quickly do it, and then I go, yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. And you wait for a little pat on the back.
Yeah, I want a little pat on the back, like my dad used to when
He used to like that. He'd done a job.
I used to go in the back door and open up, and then he'd be in there already, and he'd cleaned all the salon, and he'd be standing there all proud.
With his socks and his sandals.
Yeah, his socks, his sandals, and he'd go like, oh, the place looks nice, Dad. Oh, yeah. It'll be nice for him to come in, isn't it? I always want my pat on the back, whatever I do.
I think everybody does. Sometimes it is nice, even though some people, I find it a bit difficult to receive a bit of praise. But I don't know, it's just me. But I think everybody, it's nice to have a little bit of praise now and again.
Yeah. I think it's best not to crave it, but you can't deny the fact that it helps. It definitely helps, you know. I just I think that's an insecurity thing. I used to struggle a lot more with that, but part of then going through recovery and things, you learn to accept praise a bit better, because you can make people feel uncomfortable, can't you? If you know, someone's explained to me once that you treat it as a gift. If a little child come and give you a gift, you wouldn't say, oh no, I don't want that. You go, oh, thank you very much. You know, you wouldn't want to upset this little child. And if you think of it like that, you know, it's just thanks, that's nice, thank you. You know, But you've been, and as I say, you've been mentioned quite a lot. I've listened to I mean, always really, I leave it a little while, then I listen to the podcast back, and you've been mentioned quite a lot, on it. So people do see the value. And there was one, we was on a Zoom call to Sonota yesterday, weren't we?
Yeah, we was, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned that story of the lady who we was at the refuge in London, and she sort of kept going to go in, didn't she? We was there for a couple of hours, and she kept going to come in, and she couldn't come in. Only a young girl, wasn't she? And the lady who was running it said to me, I'm not sure she'll come in because she's had a terrible time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure she'll come in, but I think she does want it cut. And she had that great thick hair, didn't she? That lovely thick black hair. And like she sort of came in, and she sort of edged in. I saw her sort of edge in the door, and I saw you straight away have a little chat and say everything will be all right if you do want it done. Stuart will do it, and and I'll stand with you if you want. And we've got some great images by the lovely Jack Eames, the photographer, was there with us that day, and he's got that beautiful image of you just holding that girl's hand, and you held her hand the whole time, didn't you?
Yeah. And she had a firm grip on my hand as well. You could really feel that she really needed that. I don't know, perhaps to feel a bit secure, because I know you said to me before that we've had emails from different refuges, like Women's Refuge, and you always say, like, I can come myself, but if men are not allowed in there, which is the case sometimes, then we can sort a women only team. So I think perhaps, with you being in that refuge, she might have been even apprehensive with it being a male, because you just don't know, do you? So perhaps with that connection with holding my hand in a female form, she felt secure with you doing her hair.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, when I see them young like that, like my son's 34, coming up for 35 now, and I always think, like, my God, it could be my daughter. And I'd never been to a women's refuge. I hadn't really had any dealings with women's refuge before. That was my first one when I come with you to that one. And I'd never been in anywhere like that. And I'm really lucky with how my life's been, that I've had to face anything like that. So to sort of listen to their stories, I've never heard that before. So it's, I don't know, it's not having a sheltered life, it's just that you haven't been in that position to be connected with anything like that before. But the other lady who come in, because I made some notes today, this is my notebook, I sat last night. If Jackie watches this,
I knew there'd be a list. I just knew there'd be a list.
I just sat with my thoughts last night before I went to bed, just to sort of refresh of things.
Here's my notes.
Be asked. Oh, right. Is it a plank?
here's my preparation.
All right. Okay. Yeah, but there was two ladies on that visit.
Yeah.
And it was the young girl who I held her hand, but there was another lady who come in, and I'd never seen anything like it, and she was shaking. She was so nervous, and I kneeled down so eye level, which I remember from, we always used to say in the salon with the consultation, you should sit next to the client, not stand over them. And I introduced myself and asked what her name was, and she said, I'm not quite sure. One of the female volunteers cut her hair, but she said, I'm not quite sure. I'm really, really nervous. I've just come out of an abusive relationship, and I've only been here a couple of weeks. And she was literally physically shaking. She was so nervous, and I'd never been that close to somebody like that before, to be in that situation. It sticks in your mind, I think. You just want to hug them. But some of them don't want. I think with the more that you go to the projects, you tend to pick up on people whether they would welcome that or not, you know. But afterwards, she had one of the ladies gave her a trim. We had some makeup, didn't we, there that day as well, that was given out, whoever wanted it. And I did notice that she went and got some makeup. And she walked out. She didn't have a beaming smile on her face, but her facial expression was so much better than when she come in. You know, and it's always stuck with me. Every now and again, I'll have a thought, you know, and she'll pop up in my mind again, you know. So hopefully at one point we'll be able to get back to, because we did have a different women's refuge, didn't we, right on top of lockdown, which we wasn't able to go to near St James's. So yeah, so hopefully we'll get back there at some point. Not hopefully, we will.
No, we will. We definitely will. There's, I think, you just reminded me of another one, and I won't say which city it was, because I'll keep that because of, you know, because to keep her safe. But there was one that we went to, and I remember that as well. The fact that this is I think where you do some stuff that I couldn't do, because it was actually where we were was a very manic session. We had a lot of people in a small space and you was at a table near, like, keeping an eye and doing the list, everything that you do so well. And then I did see this lady come in, and she sort of sat next to you and was just watching. And because it was right near where I was working, I could hear a little bit, and you turned to her and said, do you want your hair cut? And she said, oh, I don't know, I've not had it cut for a long time. And this wasn't a refuge, this was a homeless day centre. And this lady you gradually made her feel at ease. She gradually opened up to you. And from someone who didn't even really want to see or speak to someone, it's almost like once she started, it just all came out. And she had a haircut because her partner wouldn't let her get a haircut. He would get total control of all the money. So she couldn't get a haircut. She couldn't have the heating on. She couldn't have anything. He obviously, like, I think he had, you know, he was obviously drinking and all that. So, and he got her to the point where she literally was so under his spell that he didn't drive, so he'd give her money, and he knew what change would be coming back, and he would send her to get buy him more drink, and she'd come back. And it was the point where she told us that he'd hit her and everything, and she had a cigarette, and he poured petrol all over her. That's right, and she then said, like, she knew at that point, she was so scared that it was going to, because she had this cigarette, and she wanted to go and wash it off. He wouldn't let her go and shower, and she eventually fell asleep. And she said at that point was the point where she knew if she didn't get out, he would kill her. She knew this was sort of her last chance, and that she then just got what she could together, got to the nearest station, went to this other city, and just went to the homeless centre, and, you know, to take her in, and they were at the point of they were going to get her relocated in one of these refuges, you know. So, I mean, what you did for her, if you hadn't have been there, we wouldn't have had the time, because we were busy cutting everyone's hair. We wouldn't have had the time to do that. And she wouldn't have then got a haircut. I mean, can you remember what she was like after she'd had a haircut?
Oh, it was transformation. I can remember before she had a haircut, her hands were shaking. She had a cup of tea, and the mug was shaking, and so was her hands. You know, like she was still so traumatized by all what she'd been through. But her actual haircut, it was such a transformation that she just changed. So, you know, you knew that it gave her that lift that she needed, because she still had a lot of challenges with being relocated and all of that type of thing. She's going to have a lot of things that she needs to deal with living in a different place, etc. But that certainly gave her that initial lift, and she just was transformed.
How I know what it did to me. I mean, so people know, what a big part of our life it's become. So, how was it for you early this year when they first, when we first had to cut down tools?
It was just so disappointing, and it was worrying as well, because the actual lockdown, like the first lockdown, you didn't know what was going on. So, it was what is outside that's gonna possibly kill me. If that makes sense, because like nobody knew, did they? And and it had just started to take off with the projects. We've got a lot more new projects in the pipeline, haven't we? Big booked in, all of that type of thing, and it just stopped. And it wasn't just the haircuts for homeless. Like, my husband and my son are in hospitality, and it was a very worrying time, because they just appeared home and the hotel was shut. Lucky enough, it had changed in that last couple of days that they was furloughed, which took the pressure off of both of them. But then you had to get used to all being at home at the same time. So that was difficult, and then you were thinking of, I kept thinking of all the homeless people, until like it was announced that a majority, I don't know whether it was a majority of them, but there was a high percentage was rehomed at the time in hotels and hostels and all of that type of thing. But I kept thinking, how are they going to survive on the streets? Because like London, for an example, it's so busy. And when you see like on the news that the London streets were there's nobody there. So you're thinking, like a lot of the homeless people with they get given food and drink by different people. They can get money as well. And how are they going to survive? And how are they going to defend themselves with this invisible virus? We're all right because we're at home. Like, you got your majority of people had the furlough, thank goodness. But like the people on the streets, what did they have? Because a lot of the helpers and the volunteers, they wasn't there at the beginning, apart from Whitechapel.
Yeah, we've got to
mention Whitechapel. Yeah,
I mentioned Whitechapel. The fact that Sue and her team and her husband and everyone there, and lovely Sonia, like, it's an amazing thing. What was your first impression of Whitechapel when you came?
My first impression was it was very busy, and I felt apprehensive because I'd never been there before. But quickly I felt safe. I didn't know what I was expecting, to be honest, on my first visit. And the thing that's always stuck in my mind as well, there's so many, but this is one of them, is I was given the list of their to do at the beginning, and I was asked in their names, and I kept being called Miss. They say, "Excuse me, Miss." Those always very polite. There's not one occasion where I felt anything other than fine with them, and you get to know their faces now as well when you go more than once. But yeah, they kept calling me, "Excuse me, Miss, when's my turn?" and all of this. But then you explained to me after that it probably come from a lot of them have been in prison, and that is how they have to be with the wardens, I suppose. So it's sort of instilled in them that they sort of call me Miss, which I find is very strange. Even now, I feel like a teacher. But a fantastic place. It's so organised. You know, the volunteers who work in there, Sue, who runs it with her husband. It's such a great place. It's refreshing to go in there to see how it all works like clockwork, you know, and they're so caring. It comes across with the homeless people, you know.
I mean, we, up until obviously earlier this year, pretty quickly after the salon went, the more you got involved, you went from behind the scenes to coming with me.
Yeah.
We've pretty much travelled around the UK, and then we went to Ireland. Well, what was? I love Dublin. I love the people. I love Brother Kevin. What was your tell us about Dublin?
Never been to Dublin before, so wasn't quite sure what to expect. What a lovely place. It's I've got a little place in my heart for Dublin, and the Dublin Haircuts for Homeless team are great. And I must say, if any of them listen to the podcast, that during lockdown we've got a WhatsApp group for Dublin, and they've made me laugh. They've made me laugh so much with the refreshing things that they put on there to their funny videos. But meeting Brother Kevin was very humbling. He's a lovely man, and so I don't know. You just feel at ease with him straight away, you know. And that first visit to the centre, the Capuchin Day Centre, I never forget it, because where the haircuts takes place is up on the second floor, and one of the volunteers called me over halfway through to look out the window. And when I looked out the window, there's all these young families, women with their babies in pushchairs, all queued up along the pavement, a really long queue. And he said to me, these are waiting for baby supplies, as in nappies, baby food, etc. I just couldn't believe it. That, you know, that's the situation. It's heartbreaking to see. You know, you moan about your own problems and your own worries and all of this stuff, and some of it is so silly when you think about it, when you see that they've had to queue up. Now, because like baby nappies and baby wipes, they're not that expensive, you know. So how, you know, it shouldn't be. It's not right. They shouldn't have to be queuing up for that. That something's wrong somewhere that they have to do that. What the answer is, I really don't know, but it, you know, it shouldn't be. In this day and age, it was like going back to like It reminded me of Victorian times.
Yeah.
You know? And we're in the 20th century.
Yeah.
How is that even? I don't know. It's hard to see. I think if you need to see, I think I did take a picture of it from a distance, you know, and I think you need to actually physically see that for it to affect you, because it's all, you see so much on social media, on the television, all of that stuff, but it doesn't really click home 100%, but something like that certainly does. Yeah.
It's it seems hard to imagine now, because we were flying around the country everywhere with like Dublin, but all of the UK, and we went to so many places, met so many amazing people, and it sort of just did stop. But we just started to get again. Well, I mean, I think yesterday we were supposed to be in Leeds, weren't we, yesterday? And funny enough, November this month, we were solid, weren't we? We was
busy,
really
yeah.
getting back.
Should have been
Yeah,
Ashford today.
Ashford today. Yeah,
And
like
Holborn tomorrow. Yeah.
where was it tomorrow?
Holborn.
Oh, was it Holborn? Oh, the
That was
new
the
one.
new one.
The new
Yeah.
one in Holborn. Yeah, I know. We had a lot, didn't we, this month coming up? But they'll be there. We'll get there after.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, it's just a little just a little blip. You know, it's all there ready, and we've got so many more different new projects. You know that we you just got to deal with it. You know, it's a necessity. So we just, you know, as soon as we're allowed to start again, we just get on and start. You know, we know how it is. Might be a little bit easier this time because when we was first allowed out of the first lockdown, we had all the PPE to deal with, all the different.
Stuart's in the background looking for the door.
Is he looking for the door? I mean, is it? Did you see him? Excuse me, everyone. That's my son being nosy. He's just come back from his nans.
That's so funny. Oh, this makes my day. Oh. But
I feel bad now.
no, I'm going to. Oh, you don't know how much I'm going to cane him over that one. I'm going to really have him on that when I see him. But what's funny though, we're talking about that and the place and everything, and that we get many inquiries, don't we? Now, I'm going back to, you know, when that we said on that 2 years ago today, the lottery advert came out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Now, you know, you was dealing with a lot of the stuff at that point. What happened after? I mean, it was a great process. The lottery chose us. They was thinking about it, and then they picked us for that advert, and they really went into it. They made a fantastic advert there, and they spent a lot of time and effort making it. And then we like when it went out that night, from that moment on, what was the effect of on our emails after that?
It just went overnight. There was just, and this is not exaggerating. There must have been hundreds of emails. At that point, and I apologise now that a lot of them at the beginning, we just couldn't answer them all, could we? Because at the time we had to shut up the salon, which took a long time, a good few weeks. So we had to sort of prioritise with what time we had, what we needed to do. But gradually got through them all. Yeah. To at least have an answer, you know, apologise that it was so long with answering the things. But yeah, overnight we had just so many inquiries. Yeah, it sort of made, I think in one way, the lottery advert really put us on a different level with the charity. You know, and even now people remember that I've seen you on the telly. Yeah. We even have some of the companions, don't we, who we go to see. You know, perhaps it might be a new project, and they go, "I know him. He was on the telly." So yeah.
I think what was lucky that I mean, you know, we've got to be ever so grateful to the National Lottery for choosing us for that, and you know that I believe they've supported 500,000 projects since they started. I think I remember them saying that. So for all those projects, for us, tiny little charity to get recognised to go on that advert was really fortunate. And what it did, it was really sweet and sour, because it came at a time when we couldn't really capitalise. No. It you know, our world had fallen apart. Yeah. We had this massive influx of stuff. We didn't know what on earth we were doing. But lucky enough, they redone it the following spring.
They did, yeah.
And it sort of had another burst of life, and it went out again.
Yeah.
And that really, then we was in a position with sort of, you know, rolled our sleeves back up, and we was ready for it, and we managed a lot better the second time they run that advert, weren't we?
Yeah, we was more organised by that time, so
Yeah.
we was ready for all the numerous emails. It was refreshing as well, because like you sort of said to me more than once, it was a shame that it was released at the time because of all what was going on in the background on a different level. So you couldn't sort of like make the most of it being released, where that second time you had a second chance at it for the benefit of the charity.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think, if I remember right, the first time it came out 2 years ago today, at that point we weren't a registered charity, we're still a community group.
No, yeah.
So it was after. So by the time they released the advert and had another run of it in about the spring, we were then applying, and you were doing a lot of work to get towards a registered charity. That was great news when that came through.
Oh yeah, because it's a bit like, this might sound funny, but like when you learn to ride a bike, once you can do it, it's with you for life.
Yeah.
Same as when you pass your test. So when it was a lot of work applying for the charity, but once it was agreed and you got your charity number, that's it, Yeah. It's with you for all the time that the charity is running. So you haven't got to repeat it, have you?
No.
So I think it's a definitely a positive thing. And you know that you've done all the work, but then you haven't got to do it again.
No, that's it. It's one of those things that was, it was tough, but we got there, and once we got there, it was so rewarding, because then what happens is with a community group like ours, that as soon as you become a charity and you've got charitable status, it opens up a whole new world. We were lucky enough then that the lovely Sophia Hilton, and the day of recording, by the way, happy birthday, Sophia. She really helped me, and she introduced me to Monica at L'Oreal, and we then went through it all, and they become our sponsor. But they can only, big companies or corporations, they can only really sponsor you if you are a registered charity. And we've also now got, who we were speaking to yesterday, Zenoti, the American software company, and you can't carry on, you can't expand, you can't survive without the help of, our three big ones are National Laureate Community Fund, L'Oreal, Zenoti, and we've got room for more, and what's been nice is that people like L'Oreal, who you would think would say, like, you're our charity, but even actively said, like, you need to look for other people. So, there's the availability for other people in the industry, other big industry brands. We can do that, because it's like everyone helping us to help everyone out there. It's been great, isn't it?
It has. It has really been great, and it's great when you meet new volunteers as well, because they are apprehensive. They don't know what to expect. Same as when I went on the first project as well. You're just not quite sure. But it's so refreshing when they just start to cut the hair, and then you hear them chatting as if they would to a client in their salon. And then when we always go for coffee, don't we, after that? You really look forward to in the coffee and the cake, I must add.
Especially the cake.
Yeah, especially the cake. But to listen to the new volunteers and them saying how much they've enjoyed, some of them, it's not for them, which is understandable. It's not for everybody. But the ones that you can really tell, that they're going to be coming again, and they're so full of enthusiasm, and they've so thoroughly enjoyed it, and you think, well, that's come from probably an initial email as an inquiry, you know. And thanks to L'Oreal, because it was a lot of work beforehand to find out about the different volunteers, whether they wanted to actually come to one of the projects, etc. But now that with L'Oreal, with the little mini videos, they've been such a big help with the emails that I can just ping over the link, you know, if they want to become a volunteer. And then you know that if you do get an answer back, then they do really want to do it, you know, and it is for them, you know, even perhaps even just seeing the video, they think, oh no, I don't think that's quite for me, because it takes a lot of organisation. You rely on the volunteers, you know. I know at the beginning it was just me and you was cutting the hair, wasn't you, at the beginning of after the lockdown, because we wanted to see how it would work with the PPE, etc., and to make sure everybody was in a safe environment. So, but you do need more volunteers, and you have it takes coordination, because you can't get to a project where there might be 20 or 30 haircuts and it's just you.
No.
They've let you down, you know. You've really got to get that rapport going with the volunteers to make sure, you know, that they do come to the projects.
Yeah. Well, that's where, I mean, that's when, I mean, Monica and Lucy came and done the door at Whitechapel. So, you know, they you know, they got my utmost respect for that, and they came along and they've been such a help. And then when they, I think Lucy suggested the volunteers, the videos at some point. When it's funny that day when we done the filming.
I had a really comfortable sofa. We had nice coffee and Danish pastries on a little table, and then there was you in the middle on a hard chair, and you was out your comfort zone.
I was on a stool. Let's have a look at my. We are all humans here. There you go. That's sorry. That's a little shout out to Humanitas charity. They do wonderful work. They sent me a T-shirt. Thank you very much. No, I was sat on a stool, and the video guys were great, weren't they? But they sort of, I think, so you can see the light in my glasses. They was trying to stop that, so I had to sit a certain way and and then I had to read off this script. And I'm terrible. I can talk like this, but I can't. And it was when it all fall, and then we saw.
I just wanted to take you out of the scenario, because I knew you was really inside, really suffering.
Oh, I hated it. I hated it so much. I was grateful. I was really grateful for it, but it weren't my thing. But they done a great job, because they then they took me out a lot of it and put Jack's pictures in, and then it all come together. Yeah. But now it's great, because we've got the videos where we can then, you know, a lot of back and forth questions are answered by you just saying, look, here's a link, watch this video if you want to be a volunteer. Yeah. If you're thinking of being a team leader and opening a project, if you're a centre, because you get a lot of they come to us now, don't they?
They do. You know. Yeah, but with that little video, it gives them a bit of an insight of what's expected of them, because we have had the odd one that's not really been geared up for what needed to be done with us being there. So, and our times of an essence, so we've really got to be going to the places that are really going to benefit from it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, believe it or not, that, you know, we've been chatting for nearly an hour. I know
we can always chat. We can chat for the best of them, can't we? That's all them long journeys on the train.
Yeah. You always get your list out and make me work. Okay. But, so, I mean, I'm optimistic. How do you see the future of Haircuts for Homeless?
I'm optimistic too. I think, you know, once we get all this pandemic over and up, it's got to finish in the ultimate end. I think it'll be forwards and upwards, you know, because there's just so need for haircuts for homeless all over England, Ireland, you know. So I think it just progress, you know, because we've got so many volunteers behind us, you know, and I think, the only way is definitely going to be forward and upwards.
Yeah.
And I look forward to being part of it.
On that note, thank you for everything you do. You've been with me. You've been through a lot with me. and you said you don't appreciate praise, but I couldn't do it without you.
Couldn't do without you either. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
See you soon.
See you soon.